This is the budget hearing for the Office of Communication. And Councilor Green, and with me, we got also Councilor Ware as well. So I'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for taking the time to discuss the budget with me. I believe my colleague Regla was going to join me, but if he's not here, that's fine. I can walk us through the budget right now. The differences that you'll notice in the Office of Communications budget is there's the communications director position, which is myself. Last year on the budget, I didn't appear because when we created the Office of Communications, I was still in the Parks Department under Professional Services. So as we created the office, we had to change the title and move me over. And then you'll see an addition of a second public information officer. So it'll move our total positions from 2 to 3. The goal of that second public information officer is to work exclusively to support the increased activity that we see now and that we expect coming in the Public Works Department, the Water Department, and the Engineering Department. And even though it's not exactly infrastructure, zoning and planning departments, because they deal a lot with urban planning, the city is paving 3 to 4 times more roads as it normally does, with all of the traffic light changes and all of the infrastructure work that we're doing, making sure that we provide proactive information to residents about like city services and how those services might impact them is just very important. And we don't have the bandwidth to do that with just one public information officer. Do you have any questions so far? All right. If we walk you down in the budget, I've already explained the salaries. The only big changes that you'll notice is that we zeroed out travel, training, and development when we had to go into a contingency COVID budget, which is unfortunate because a lot of the services we provide, especially during COVID, requires using a digital format, learning how to use software, particularly the new website is one good example, but everything from production software to have our YouTube viewings, to project management software so that we can keep up with multiple projects at once. So we hope to bring that back next year, especially as we bring on new officers. And then the only other change in the budget is we hope to bring back up office supplies. Again, with a budget this small, all departments had to make a 2% cut, and the most logical place for us to make our cuts were in office supplies and travel and training. So we pretty much eliminated those this year and hope to bring them back online next year. As far as operating supplies and expenses, we did hold as much as we could in the earlier parts of COVID. But it was important to us to make sure that as we reopened, that we were able to continue to purchase a lot of material and equipment for doing engagements. We support digital engagements across the entire city for all of the departments, including the component units. So a lot of those funds are still an encumbrance. I do anticipate us spending those down by the end of the year.
Ruthie, just to ask a quick question on that. So what are the operating supplies? Like what do you buy with that?
So operating supplies and expenses are things like our cameras, so we can go out and shoot photography. We actually don't have any cameras right now. We use camera phones. So if I want photography for the city website right now, I have to source it and pay for it, like someone who has a license for it. We don't have anything that has high quality images to that effect. Other supplies include equipment, editing equipment, external hard drives. We have to move all of the videos that we've been producing off of the city server. They take up a substantial amount of space. So we're going to have to purchase hard drive to move those things off. All of the videos that we've been recording on WebEx, we'll have to start moving those off of to external hard drives. Things like our Mevo, our live streaming camera that we take with us in the field when we don't have Wi-Fi available. We were using it for the mayor's briefings in the beginning until we can get WCNY up and rolling. So they're mostly electronic, like they're mostly like digital, electronic, and production type equipment.
Okay, thanks.
Last night, I also sent ahead just an example, a small one-page summary of communications and marketing indicators, just explaining the activities that we actually do in the office. We're charged with managing all of the city's communication channels, a lot of those being digital right now. So whether it be digital newsletters that we have to produce and design and edit and get out, whether it be managing media inquiries for hundreds of reporters, whether it be managing websites. The city actually has more than one website. We have the police department website, which is its own domain. We have the syrgov.net website, which is its own domain. We have the city blog. API has websites. So we're the ones charged with making sure that information can get on those so people can find them, that they meet standards, that they're high quality, and that they're safe. We're watching networking on them. And then our social media channels. We have a very big social media following that we've grown. I supervise a team of public information officers that help manage content on those social media channels. So we have about 20 active social media channels, 18 of which the communications team manages. And those channels have grown to about 114,000 followers across the region. So we're trying every day to build our capacity to get information out broadly and quickly. The communications department also supported every city department as it had to pivot to online services last year. We supported 61 digital engagements across all the departments, not including Syracuse Police and Syracuse Parks. That's just my office working with everyone from, planning and zoning to public works. If they have to do a road paving project on Salina and they have to get information out, or if someone has to do a public hearing for CDBG. But we are working to make sure that we're creating some sort of engagement in a digital format so that people can still have access to information. And this team is very small, but the way that it works is by managing cross-functional teams. We're managing public information officers in the police, fire, and parks department. We manage an engagement team to help us keep up with all of the city's engagement. And that consists of members from NBD, constituent services, and the mayor's office. I manage a digital services team, which helps me keep up with managing the websites and managing the content on YouTube. Brian Driscoll is very helpful in that from the clerk and council office. I work with IT. We have a new web design specialist now, which I think is very exciting for the city, that we have someone that can take ownership of the development needs of our websites. And I manage project teams. With the website we spoke last week, and I manage about 3 or 4 consultant teams on the implementation side. And I also manage how we're redesigning our city's internship program so that we can keep bringing in a bench of students who live here, who might have an interest in working here or might have an interest in volunteering here for college credit and being able to contribute to how we deliver city services. So a lot of what we do to get information out proactively and to engage constituents and respond to constituents goes beyond the team of 3. And our team reports to Greg Lowe. So, whenever we need to interact with other departments across the city or support a lot of the larger mayoral initiatives, we jump in and we do that. Are there any questions from the council?
Ruthie, I guess I was just wondering, as you said, there was more than one city website, like you mentioned, SPD and blah, 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 and some of the other ones. Does that fall under the city's purview, though? I mean, does SPD manage that site themselves, or do they look to you to help manage and facilitate content on that?
So the existing SyracusePolice.org website, the police have a contract with, I think it's IMV Consulting that gets information up there. The goal of managing the funds that they pay to that contractor is to work with me to transition Syracuse police content over to the new city website. So by the end of this year, we'll be able to get rid of syracusepolice.org, and they'll be a part of the syr.gov. That way, I could provide some oversight and quality control as to like the information on there, making sure that it's easy for people to navigate, easy for people to get access to. I do not feel strongly about paying a third party to manage something that has city content on it. And it's important that we own our content and that we be able to manage it whenever we need to without paying someone else.
So that's in transition.
Yes.
That
Yes.
it will soon be it'll soon be not its own entity, but will be under the cities.
Yes.
Okay. And what were the other ones you mentioned? What are some of the other ones? Were there other
So
ones?
other websites are the Syracuse FEC launched a website when the initiative launched last year so that they can get information out to people about financial literacy, financial planning, and financial support. We are in the process of taking ownership over that website since the Syracuse FEC is a city initiative. Another one would be like the API team. Years before we got here, the API team had its own website because it worked kind of like a Bloomberg project outside of the city. But when we transitioned the I team over to the API office, it was important that we start bringing the conversation and like a lot of the audience that they speak to, bring that back into the fold under the city website to kind of show the work that they're doing with us around, data and performance management. Other websites that we have plans for in the future, but we don't have the capacity to manage right now. API manages the open data portal, so I don't manage that, but we do work together on content and planning. And the dashboards.syrgov.net, which has our OKR dashboards, is also managed by API, but we work together on design language standards. So anything that has a web presence and communicates outwardly about the city, even if I don't manage it, I'm supporting that team to make sure that it hits the right standards.
Thanks.
Rodney, you spoke about having 3 team members with you. Are they all in the mayor's office?
No, they're in the communications office. So the communications office sits in a different budget and really has a different function than the mayor's office. Our function is to support public communication across the city, across all the departments, and to support engagement, it's constituent engagement and response across all the departments. So myself, the senior public information officer, and hopefully the incoming infrastructure public information officer, those are all members of the communications office budget.
But where are they stationed? Are they all
Physically, myself and the senior public information officer were stationed in the mayor's office as of right now.
And the other person?
As the comms office grows, the goal is to give us a space away from the mayor's office so that we can continue supporting other departments across the city. Space is clearly a premium here at the city, so that takes time.
So you said 2 people, you and the senior.
Me and the senior public information officer are physically in the mayor's office right now. We're not in the mayor's office budget, but we're physically in the mayor's office right now.
Councilor, the third individual isn't on staff yet, and I think the envisionment is that person will have a shared presence at those infrastructure sites in the future, be present on site at the departments working with. Brittany, would you say that's likely?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who is the other person?
We haven't hired them yet. The goal is to hire an infrastructure PIO.
The second person, I'm sorry.
Oh, Tejana Cerruti Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. Now does that mean that out of the 2 of you plus the potential third person, so you guys go across the city department, or does each city department, for example, the fire, do they have their own media or information person, and then that person report to you as well?
It's a good question. So when we first came on, we did carve out public information officers in the fire department, the police department, and the parks department, mainly because there's a lot of information coming in and out of the city, and we needed more than one person to triage that. I coordinate and support the PIOs in police, fire, and parks. So I manage their activities. I supervise like media inquiries that they may have that require someone else to jump in. I'm looking at the way they do engagements, the way they manage social. So I'm managing their activities, but they're not in the communications office. They're not in my department. They are not my direct reports. They do report directly to their department heads. But think of it as a dotted line to me, because Chief Mons isn't going to tell someone how to do social or how to get fire alarms on their webpage. He's going to say, you know, that's what Ruthnie is for. But the infrastructure person coming in, they're really supporting a portfolio of departments. So it's important that that person be assigned to this department and work directly with me and under me.
So I guess where I'm trying to go with this, Ruthnie, and maybe this would also be for Greg Lowe as well, is considering that, you know, a lot of work that you are doing is not just specifically dedicated to mayor's office alone, but somehow that it is spread across city departments. Now, with that, considering where we allocate an approved city department budget, do they contribute to these folks' salary, or is it usually this a separate budget? Because I feel like since you are doing this much work for all these departments, it would make sense that as for example, as fire, make their budget with the idea of paying public information officers in their department, that somehow that budget should be contributing to your salary and other folks. Does that happen?
That does not happen right now. That's a new strategy. That's a new way to think about it. And I'm happy to have that conversation with Greg and with Frank about how we do that or how we make that possible. But yeah, you're right. Communications office is a centralized city function, just like IT, just like how we do accounting and paying. It's supporting everyone in the city, and it's supporting the public constituent. We're one of the few departments that support both internal and external. So it's a good point, and it's a conversation I'm willing to have. It's good. Thank you.
Because I would think as counselors and Councilor Green and Councilor Driscoll, I would think as we approve this money, that somehow that they are going to be spent in a way that is considerate as to why they were approved. You see, and then if that is not the case, we raise the question: where does this money go? What happened to that money? Are they being spent in the way that they were meant to be spent as they were approved? You see that? So that may be another question as counselors we may want to really zero in on and really look at it. Not just approving money for the sake of approving money. So, just a thought.
Thank you, Councilor Cho. Councilman Juck. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, I really appreciate the council's support and just listening and hearing kind of the work that we do to try to deliver city services, and in making the investment in a communications office. It's high time that the city had an office that focused on getting information out to the public. And I think now we see citizen engagement at the highest level that I've seen it since I've lived here. So again, thank you for the investment. Thank you for the time. And if you have any other questions, you can email me and I'm happy to respond or work it out for you.
Thank you very much, Ruthie. Appreciate it.
Thanks.